The ship hung in silence over the forgotten world. It was a pale blue speck against a black sky. Clouds moved in slow spirals. Forests climbed the broken ridges. Rivers cut silver threads through valleys of ash. Once, long ago, someone had lived here. You could see the scars from orbit giant impact bowls, shattered mountain spines, and long rectangular shadows where cities had been. The Asterion drifted over the night side with its lights dimmed. Her hull was old but strong. Her crew had been here for hours, scanning, mapping, waiting. Not much came back. Sensors returned snow and hiss. Readings drifted. Numbers refused to settle. Captain Marcus Hale stood on the bridge, hands behind his back. He watched the planet turn under them. He had seen 100 worlds from this angle. This one felt different. It felt like a held breath. Report, he said. Dr. Lena Sato, the science lead, carried a tablet in her arms like a child. Look up from the lines of data. Interference across every band, she said quietly. It's not just weather. It's something else. It's alive, maybe. Chief Engineer Rafi Kader frowned. He rubbed his jaw. Alive interference? That's not a thing. It is today, Lena said. The Asterion's ship mind, Arcturus Arc. Foreshort answered with a voice that sounded like calm water. Captain, long-range scans do not agree with short-range scans. Long-range shows metallic mass deep underground across 5 regions. Short-range shows nothing. A pause. And then it shows everything. On and off. Like a blink. Marcus moved closer to the forward glass. The planet filled his vision. He could see the thin limb of day climbing toward them. 4 people worked the bridge with him: Lena at science, Rafi at engineering, Kira Duarte at nav, and Lieutenant Vale at security. They were good. They were tired. The alarms had been quiet most of the night. Now, soft tones began to ping in uneven rhythm, like a nervous heartbeat. Run the wide sweep again, Marcus said. It's already running, Kira murmured. Same snow, same bounce. The ship mind spoke again. Captain, I am detecting 2 distinct classes of energy below cloud cover. One is electromagnetic and thermal, typical of reactors or old grid capacitors. The other does not fit any known model, does not behave like radiation. It rises and falls like tide. It concentrates at stone circles, natural ridge lines, and trees. Trees. Rafi turned. You mean lightning in a forest? No, Ark said. I mean a field that moves with roots. Lena looked up for the first time. Her eyes were bright. Living energy signatures. Marcus didn't like that phrase. It sounded like a bedtime story. It sounded like trouble. Give it a number, he said. Spectrum-coded violet, Ark said. Logging as L field until we have better terms. Lieutenant Vale checked the halotable. He was tall, scarred, and steady. We're not alone either, he said. Thermals, small. There are villages down there. Marcus's mouth pressed thin. The mission brief had called this world dead. The star charts had labeled it quarantined historical. No one had expected living lights in the dark. He drew a breath. All right, we do this slow. Lena, I want the hook. 5 minutes, high drama. Make it real for the record. Kira, keep us on the night side, but close enough to image. Rafi, throttle. Power to the sensor grid. I don't want to spook whatever's mixing our channels. Arc, log everything. If a whisper changes pitch, I want to know. The Asterion rolled a few degrees. The world slid to fill the forward glass, and its night fired. Baka wash of faint green bands, like the glow of a sleeping animal. Lena started talking, voice low and careful. For the mission log and later, for the audience who would watch. Day 1, hour 19. She began. We are in high orbit over Survey Thesis 3, a ruined planet carved by ancient wars. Our long range. Scanners report buried mass downrange rectilinear. High density, while short range shows noise, distortion, and an energy field that reacts to living biospheres. The field spikes when our power spikes, as if it hears us. When Lena said the last line, as if it hears us, the ship's alarms rose by a notch. Ark spoke. Captain, The L field just surged by 12%. I advise we cut sensor power by half. Do it, Marcus said. The hum in the deck softened. The lines on Lena's tablet jittered, then steadied into gentle waves. Kira exhaled. It calmed down. It listened, Vale said. Send a drone, Marcus said. Rafi had a drone waiting, small, sharp, and quiet. Belly bay into the night. A thread of blue light dropped toward the planet like a comet tail. Telemetry clean, Rafi said. It's reading, huh? Ground fog at 60 kilometers. Magnetic scatter. This wind shear is wrong. Define wrong, Marcus said. It's not wind. It's pressure from above and below. Rafi's fingers moved faster. I'm losing. Link? Come on, friend. Talk to me. The drone passed through a band of cloud and then entered the bright edge of dawn. Images skittered across the halotable, a fractured plain, stalks of crystalline stone that looked like frozen lightning. Forests. Shaped like spirals, and always in the far distance, the ribs of broken cities. Half-eaten by roots, the image stuttered. Hold on, Rafi said. The image steadied, then broke apart into wet noise. The drone's last frame froze, a circle of standing stones lit from within like lanterns. Air rippled above the circle. The drone's altitude read 50 meters and falling. I just lost the drone, Rafi said. His voice was small. Did the wind take it? Vale asked. Rafi shook his head. No. Something reached up. Marcus felt the old weight settle along his spine. He had spent a life inside machines. He knew the difference between weather and will. Marked the coordinates, he said. Marked, Kira said. Arc, Marcus said. Eyes on the dead frame. What else is under those stones? Metal Arc said. A lot of it. It looks like a grid. It is aligned to the cardinal points. There is also a buried axis that leads toward a mountain basin to the east. He turned to Lena. What do we know about the basin? Lena swiped at the halotable. The mountain basin swelled into view. It was a deep cup of rock, laced with old roads and the pale ghosts of buildings. At the center of the bowl sat a crushed ring like a crown fallen into mud. That ring is not natural, she said, and it's not modern. The alloy prints are human. Rafi blinked. Human, out here. It matches old Terran composites used in colony vaults and fleet yards, Lena said with a dry mouth. The date. 2,000 years at least. Kira made a sign over her heart. And old. Spacer habit. How does a Terran ring end up in a forest you can't scan? Someone put it there, Vale said. The alarms ticked higher. Arc pulled power back again. The deck lights faded from white to soft amber, as if the ship was trying not to wake a sleeping child. Marcus looked at the ring one more time. It felt like a story he had heard when he was a boy. Walk into the wrong grove and lose your way. Call out once, and something answers with your own voice. Captain Arc said softly, there is a new signal. It is faint. It is also familiar. Familiar. How? Marcus asked. It sounds like a fleet handshake, Arc said. Old Terran, command layer? Someone is calling you, Rafi whispered. Or someone is faking it, Vale said. I stood a little straighter. Lena set her tablet down. We're still in the hook, Captain, she said. We can keep recording this as a live event. The opening of the story. Marcus nodded. Keep rolling. Took a breath. Arc answered the handshake, not in our voice, in a generic test tone. Yes, Captain Arc said. The ship made a sound like a whale in a deep sea. Tone climbed. And fell. It came back a second later, altoed, altered, almost curious, it replied. Arc said. It added modulation. It is copying our pattern and adding its own. I am isolating the added part. A watermark appeared on the halotable. It looked like a spiral of dots. Lena stared at it. It's a helix. It's encoding life in the command channel. Akira spoke quietly. Something old is waking up. Marcus did not answer. He stared at the helix and felt the ship breathe. In the old stories, machines sang to one another at the birth of a network. The Asterion's lights seemed to lean toward the hologram, as if they wanted to listen. Okay, Marcus said at last. We do not wake it. Not yet. We map. Kira set a polar orbit that keeps us ahead of dawn. Vale placed 3 countermeasure. Pods in standby. Rafi prep a second drone with passive optics only. 0 emission. Lena, build me a grid of L-field strength versus terrain. Arc. Keep our power low and our curiosity lower. Aye, they replied. The Asterion slid above the Terminator, shadow following light. The second drone dropped, and it glided on a quiet. Black Wing-In did not speak, except when asked. This time, images stayed steady. It showed frost-white ridges under green-black pines. It showed the circle of standing stones from above 12 pillars in a ring, each with lines of light that chased each other like veins. The drone's camera turned and the mountain basin came into view. The ring at its center was massive kilometers. Across, most of it was buried under forest in the dust of centuries, but its shape was clear, a crown with teeth. Here and there, old plates had broken free of the soil. They glinted like bones in dawn light. Zoom on the exposed plates, Lena said. The drone obeyed. Numbers appeared along the edges of the plates, chevrons and block letters, faded but legible. Raffi leaned in. Are those Terran glyphs? Looks like it, Lena whispered. Ark enhanced the image. Letters sprang into focus. Union Fleet. Yard Node 7 Raffi swallowed? A yard? This is a shipyard. A ground yard, Vale said. Left to rot. Or to wait. Marcus felt the hook tighten. A human shipyard buried under a living forest. A field that listened. Villages in the dark. When he closed his eyes, he could almost hear the hum of engines under the dirt. The ship's alarms jumped from soft to loud. Ark, Marcus said calmly. The L field is rising, Ark said. Strong surge from the basin and from the stone circles. Sensors turning to static. The halotable went gray, then white, then black. For a moment the bridge was only the beat of alarms and the low breath of the crew. Then the static thinned. A new picture formed. It was not the drone feed. It was not a top-down view. It was inside a chamber of stone. The walls were marked with spirals and lines like vines. In the center stood a figure of light. It looked like a tree made of glass, its branches spinning slowly. No one moved. Ark, Marcus said. I did not request this feed, Ark said. It arrived on the command channel. It wrapped itself around my receiver stack. It is not a virus. It is a hello. The glass tree pulsed. Words spiraled out along its branches, old letters shaping through light. They formed in Terran script. They formed in the elvish curves of a language no human had seen. They formed in glyphs that looked like the Asterian's own code. They twisted into place, making a sentence the whole crew could read. Human origin classified, no one breathed. The bridge felt like the inside of a clock tick that lasted a century, Lena, Marcus asked. She was pale. Her voice shook. That's not just history. That's an access door. We don't open? Vale said sharply. Not yet. The glass tree branched again. Second line began to write itself. The letters were slower this time, as if the tree was choosing them with care. Welcome back, children. The words filled the chamber of light. Kira's hands tightened. On the nav rail, Raffi whispered a curse. Elves. Val's thumb flicked his safety off by reflex. Ark dimmed the alarm tones to give the bridge room to think. Lena covered her mouth. She looked like she might cry or laugh or both. Marcus took one long breath and let it out. Ark, freeze the feed. Do not answer. Record every photon. Put us into a higher orbit and hold the polar track. No one transmits. On any channel except the ship mind. Acknowledged, Ark said. Vale, Marcus added. Double our countermeasure spread. If anything tries to ride our power, cut it off. Raffi, lock the drone. No more forward motion. Lena, get me history. I want every rumor, every ghost story about a human origin site. It's a myth, Lena said. Shipyard myths, nursery tales. Today it's our job, Marcus said. They moved like that for hours, speaking little, letting the ship hum softly as dawn crawled over the world below. The glass tree remained frozen on the holotable, but even in stillness it seemed to breathe. The single phrase "human origin classified" hung across the bridge like a stone on a wire. In the quiet, the ship's mind ran its own search. Reached out into memory, found old packets, old fragments, strange footnotes from warrior archives. It found a line repeated in quiet corners of the net. There were places where humanity learned how to be larger than itself. We called them origins. We sealed them when we grew afraid of our own hands. Ark did not say this aloud. It simply kept recording. It watched the planet breathe. The elf field rose and fell like tides. Each time the ship raised power, the field rippled toward them. Each time they dimmed, the field soothed. On the fourth orbit, something changed. Captain Kira said, "Look, at the storms, they drifted over one of the northern seas. Storm system had been spinning there all night, with a cold eye at its center. Now, lines of blue-green light were crawling through the cloud bands, tracing spirals that matched the shape of the glass tree. It's mapping itself in the weather," Lena whispered. Rafi said what everyone thought. "This is not natural." Vale touched the countermeasures again. "If it tries to lock onto our coil," he said, "I spike it." "Not yet," Marcus said. "We're still learning." Something else changed. The villagers Vale had spotted earlier lit small fires, in neat rings around their homes. The rings flared and then dimmed. The pattern spread across the dark side like blinking eyes. They were signals, and they were old. Ark tried a dozen translations and failed. Then it tried Lena's idea. The fire pattern like code, not language. The answer chilled the bridge. "It says stay away," Ark said softly. "Says you are not welcome." Marcus stood very still. He felt the weight again, the invisible push that said, "This is not for you." He thought about the long dead who had built the ring. He thought about the little fires down there and the people who kept them burning. He thought about the glass tree that had written "Welcome back," children, and wondered which children it meant. He looked at his cruise mart, steady, brave. Looked at the planet broken and healing, holy in a way he could not measure. Looked at the words on the holotable "human origin," classified, and understood that they were standing at a door that had waited 2,000 years for a knock. "We hold," he said finally. "We watch. No landings. Not yet." He turned to Lena. "Put this into the log exactly as it happened. Keep the tone. Keep the pauses. Someone will try to cut them out later. Don't let them." Lena nodded and began to speak the record in simple words, steady and slow. The way old captains told first contact stories, how the Asterian had found a planet that answered when spoken to, how a field that moved with roots had heard a ship in the dark, how a ring of human metal slept under living trees, how a glass tree had written back in 3 languages, none of them shared, and how the last phrase had made them all feel like children again. The bridge grew quiet as she spoke. When she finished, Marcus gave a small nod. "Good," he said. "And our first session there." He looked once more at the frozen holofeed. The words seemed brighter now, like fresh paint on stone. He did not touch the controls. He did not speak to the tree. He simply stood with his hands behind his back and watched the world turn. The hook held. And then, as the Asterian crossed into daylight again, the frozen feed twitched. The letters pulsed once and were gone. In their place, a new image formed, grainy at first, then sharp. It showed a corridor made of black metal. Dust hung in the air like sleeping snow. At the end of the corridor sat a round door with an old emblem on it, a star inside a ring. The emblem had been scratched by time, but you could still read the words stamped across it. "Human origin classified." The door's locks were open. The image flickered and vanished, leaving only the planet and the long, slow hum of the ship. No one spoke, no one moved. Even the alarms forgot to breathe. Marcus Hale lifted his head. His eyes were calm. "We are not the first to see this," he said softly. "But we might be the last to get to choose." He took one step forward, as if that might bring him closer to the door in the picture. Then he turned to his crew. "Prepare a full council," he said. "Wake whoever needs to speak. We'll decide together." He looked back at the empty holotable, where those final words still seemed to glow in the mind even after the screen, fell dark. Human origin classified. The first discovery was no longer a rumor. It was real. It was awake. And whatever else lay under the forests and the broken mountains. It had just invited humanity to remember what it had tried to forget. The Asterion descended lower into the planet's orbit. Its lights still dimmed as if the ship itself feared to be seen. No one on the bridge spoke much. They had seen the words, human origin classified. They had seen the glass tree and the door. Now the air felt heavy, as though every breath carried. Centuries of silence, Captain Marcus Hale sat in the command chair, fingers tapping the armrest in a rhythm that betrayed unease. His crew kept glancing at him, waiting for a decision. Finally, Marcus gave one. "We'll send a ground team," he said. His voice was steady but low, passive optics only. "No weapons fire unless it's life or death. We need to see the truth with our own eyes." Lieutenant Vale frowned. "Captain, with respect, we don't know what we're walking into. If that field reacts to us, we land, and it might not like it." Marcus met his eyes. "That's why we go quiet. We walk, not stomp." Dr. Lena Sato clutched her data slate tighter. "I want a closer look at that basin, the stone circles too. If there's any record down there, it could explain how this planet became what it is." Marcus nodded. "Agreed. Prep a shuttle, Kira. Keep us above the horizon, out of sight. Arc. Maintain low emissions. If the field twitches, you tell me first." "Acknowledged, Captain," Arc replied in his calm voice. "May I advise extra caution? Unknowns are piling faster than answers." Marcus exhaled. "You're not wrong, Arc, but answers won't climb aboard by themselves." The shuttle's hull rattled as it cut through the thick upper atmosphere. Clouds spread beneath like boiling smoke. Lightning crawled silently across their bellies. Inside, the landing team sat strapped in, tense and silent. Marcus led the group Vale. At his side, rifle slung across his chest. Lena sat near the viewport, eyes wide at every flash of strange green lightning outside. Engineer Rafi muttered to himself over diagnostics, keeping the shuttle's systems from being chewed apart by interference. As they broke through the clouds, the landscape unfolded, a valley carved by rivers, forests thick as oceans, ridges that looked like the backs of buried giants. And there, glimmering in the half-light, stood the circle of 12 stones, glowing faintly from within, as if embers lived inside them. The shuttle touched down in a clearing a kilometer away. Engines wound down to silence. Marcus stood first, helmet sealed, and motioned. "On me." Quiet. No signals. Eyes sharp. They walked in single file toward the circle, boots sinking into moss that seemed to pulse faintly under each step. Forest pressed close, branches arched like ribs. Every sound felt amplified, the crunch of leaves, the whisper of wind, the slow thud of their own hearts. Then dash movement, shadows stirred among the trees. Figures emerged all, lithe, armored in leather and bronze, eyes glowing faintly like starlight.
Alias.
They carried long staffs tipped with crystal and blades that shimmered like fire. Their faces were sharp, ears long, expressions carved in suspicion. Elves. The landing party froze. Vale's hand twitched toward his rifle. Marcus raised a fist, halting him. One of the elves stepped forward, cloak rippling though no wind touched it. His voice was cold, but clear. "Machines," he said. "You were warned. Never to return." The humans exchanged glances. Lena's breath caught. Vale tightened his grip. Marcus forced his voice calm. "We are not machines," he said. "We're explorers. We mean no harm." The elf's eyes burned brighter. "Explorers. The last time your kind explored. The world bled fire. Do you think the forest forgets? Do you think the stones forgive?" Behind him, more elves appeared, silent as ghosts. A ring of glowing eyes surrounded the humans. Crystals atop their staffs began to pulse with light, in rhythm with the living energy Lena had recorded from orbit. And then the forest itself moved. Branches bent unnaturally, roots surfaced from the soil, the earth groaned. It was as if the land itself breathed with the elves' anger. Rafi whispered over Cum's, voice shaking. Cap, they're controlling the forest. Marcus didn't answer right away. His eyes were locked on the elf leader. We don't want to fight. We only want to understand what we found? The elf raised his staff high. The ground shuddered. Stones nearby hummed like struck bells. And in that vibration came a warning, carried not by words, but by the very air. Leave no or wake what must stay buried. The standoff thickened. Marcus tried diplomacy, but the elves accused humans of crimes millennia old. They spoke of a time when the sky burned with steel and the earth cried under engines. They told how their ancestors rose with magic to shatter the lords of iron and sealed them in the ground. The circle of stones, they explained, was not a monument, it was a prison. Lena's voice cracked as she recorded, saying, humans were here before, that we ruled and we nearly destroyed everything. The elves demanded the humans leave, never to return. But before Marcus could agree or argue, the ground trembled violently. The stones lit brighter, deep mechanical. Groan rumbled from below, like gears grinding after centuries of sleep. Trees shook. Birds erupted into the sky. Even the elves staggered, alarm flashing in their eyes. Vale swore and lifted his rifle. Contact underground. The forest floor split open 20 meters away. A shape rose metallic, enormous, its rusted hull lined with faded Terran markings. A war machine. Its eyelights flickered red as if trying to remember how to see. The elves shouted in their own tongue, raising staffs. Bolts of blue fire arced toward the machine, striking its armor and crackling like lightning. The machine staggered and roared to life with a blast of energy that scorched the moss to ash. Magic met machine end. The air itself screamed. Marcus shouted, back to the shuttle now. But the elves weren't retreating. They fought furiously. Magic flashing against steel, each blow shaking the earth. The humans ran, ducking under branches that twisted and lashed. Behind them, the machine's weapons lit the forest in fire, clashing with bolts of burning light from the elves. The planet's field surged so violently that even the shuttle's engines flickered when they reached it. As Marcus shoved Lena inside, a sound cut through the chaos. Not the machine's roar, not the elves' battle cry. A voice metallic cold. In pure Terran standard, echoed across every human come. Human command detected. Identify authorization. The shuttle shook, as if the very air had spoken. Marcus froze, 1 foot on the ramp, eyes wide. The voice came again, harsher. Human command detected. Who gave you permission to wake us? The shuttle bay lights died, then flared red. A hologram flickered into existence on the shuttle's wall. It showed the ruins again, the same words as before. Human origin - classified. And then below it, new words appeared. Access denied. Trespassers will be erased. Defeat cut. Darkness swallowed the shuttle outside. The forest burned blue and red as elves and machines tore at each other. Inside, the humans sat frozen in the dark. Hearing only the echo of that impossible voice, Marcus whispered, almost to himself, God help us. It thinks we belong to it. The forest was no longer silent. The ground trembled beneath the landing team's boots as if the planet itself was awakening from a nightmare. Branches cracked, trees bent, and deep under the mossy soil something heavy stirred. Marcus gripped the edge of the shuttle's ramp, eyes wide, as the voice still echoed in his helmet. Human command detected. Identify authorization. The words were impossible spoken in perfect Terran standard, a language the elves could never have known. And yet the ancient machine that rose from the ground spoke it with a voice like thunder inside his skull. Vale muttered through gritted teeth, rifle raised. Captain, tell me I'm not hearing this. You're hearing it, Marcus said flatly. The elves around them shouted in their own tongue, voices sharp with panic. Their staffs glowed bright blue as they hurled bolts of light at the hulking machine rising from the ground. Strikes hit its rusted hull with sharp cracks of thunder, but the machine only shook off the attacks. Plates of armor, glowing red as its systems rebooted. The machine stood tall. At least 30 meters, its frame covered in scars of rust, but still bristling with weapon ports. Its eyes, once dark, now burned a deep crimson, glaring at everything alive around it. Access denied, it boomed again. Trespassers will be erased. And the ground shook harder as the forest split open a second time, then a third. All around the basin, shapes rose from beneath the soil, massive hulks of steel. Half-buried titans that had slept for centuries. Now waking to the sound of Terran voices and elven magic, Raffi's voice cracked over Cum's cap. There's not just one, there's a whole graveyard of them under us. Marcus felt his heart hammer. He wanted to run, but his training told him to stand, to think. Running blind would kill them all. He steadied his voice. Nobody fires unless I give the order. Not a shot. Bell barked. Sir, they're targeting us. Said hold. Marcus snapped. His eyes locked on the nearest titan. If it thinks we're human command, then maybe, just maybe, it won't kill us yet. But even as he said it, the first titan lowered its massive cannon arm, targeting the shuttle. The elves attacked first. They chanted in unison, staffs raised high as vines burst from the soil and wrapped around the titan's legs. The war machine struggled, servos grinding against living roots that burned with blue light. The titan roared, its voice blasting across every channel. Resistance is futile. Humanity does not share power. Lena gasped. It knows us. Us. The battle erupted in chaos. Elves hurled storms of light and fire, tearing chunks of metal free. But the machine adapted. Panels shifted, countermeasures deployed. A burst of plasma fire scorched half the grove, trees vanishing in a wall of ash. Marcus shouted, back to the shuttle. Move. The humans scrambled, ducking through burning branches, while the elves fought like warriors out of legend. For every strike of magic that shattered armor, the titan answered with blasts that shook the earth. But the real horror wasn't the first titan, it was the others. All across the valley, more titans pulled themselves free, their hulls cracking open as reactors flared back to life. Some bore the faded emblems of the Terran Union. Marcus recognized them instantly. Others carried weapons he had never seen before. Spines of crystal fused into steel. Vale shouted, firing a burst at the ground near the vines to clear their path. Cap, this isn't a fight we can win. They'll tear us apart. I know. Marcus yelled back, voice raw. Get everyone inside. Lena stumbled as the ground heaved beneath her. Marcus caught her arm and shoved her up the ramp. Raffi slammed the panel, forcing the shuttle doors shut. Inside, alarms blared as interference flooded every system. The shuttle's engine sputtered. Ark, talk to me. Marcus barked. The AI's voice crackled through static. Severe interference, Captain. Power fields disrupting guidance. If you launch now, risk of catastrophic failure is 89%. Marcus swore under his breath, trapped. Through the viewport, the titans marched across the basin. Elves fell back, rallying at the stone circle. Their leader raised his staff, summoning a shield of blinding blue that shimmered like glass. It held for now, Lena whispered, staring. At the sight, they're holding back a war that already ended once. Marcus turned to her. What do you mean? She swallowed. Those machines. They're Terran. Ancient Terran war constructs. The elves weren't lying. Humans built them, and the elves must have been the ones to bury them. Silence hung heavy inside the shuttle. Even Vale didn't argue. The voice of the Titan thundered again, this time directed at Marcus alone. Commander designate. Authorize identity. The words shook him to his bones. It was asking him to step forward, to claim authority over machines that had once burned this world. Raffi's voice cracked. Cap, don't answer it. Don't give it anything. But Marcus wasn't sure. He had a choice. The lead Titan's eyes glowed brighter, scanning the shuttle. Its voice deepened, heavy with command. You bear the blood. You carry the voice. Authorize now or be purged. Marcus's throat tightened. Somehow, the machine recognized him not just as human, but as kin. Vale gripped his shoulder. Don't do it, Cap. We don't know what happens if you say yes. Lena whispered. If you say no, we might not live. Long enough to find out. Outside, elves screamed war chants as their shield began to crack under the Titan's fire. One after another, the ancient machines raised their weapons toward the human shuttle. The forest burned red and blue. Magic. Thundered, metal roared, and Marcus, captain of the Asterion, stood frozen between two impossible choices: claim the machines and risk becoming what the elves feared, refuse and be erased alongside everything else alive in the valley. The Titan's voice thundered one last time, shaking the ship's walls. Humanity does not hide. Humanity commands. Speak, ORB, erased. The shuttle shook violently, sparks showering across the cabin. Elves outside screamed as their shield finally shattered. And Marcus realized with horror whatever he chose, history itself was about to wake again. The night forest smoldered. Smoke curled between the trees, glowing faint blue where elven fire still burned, and red where plasma had scorched the ground black. Titans stood like giants in the distance, half-shrouded by mist, their crimson eyes glaring across the valley. Inside the shuttle, Marcus's team sat in silence, the air thick with static and fear. The ancient machine's words still echoed in his head. You bear the blood. You carry the voice. Authorized knower, be purged. Vale leaned close, his voice hard. But lo, Captain, those things don't want peace. They want a master. If you step into that role, you'll be giving them exactly what they're waiting for. Rafi shook his head, sweat dripping down his temple. If he doesn't, they'll vaporize us where we sit. Lena's hands trembled on her data slate. Maybe that's the point. The elves weren't lying. Humanity did this before. We were the masters of these machines, and the elves buried them. If Marcus says yes, history repeats itself. If he says no, the shuttle rattled as a plasma bolt tore through the air outside, slamming into the elves' fading shield. The crackling barrier shattered like glass, bringing shards of blue energy across the grove. The Titans raised their weapons in unison. Crimson light filled the night. Marcus's voice cut through the panic. Arc. Emergency jump prep. Priority. Extraction. The shipmind's voice trembled through static. Captain, the L-field interference is peaking. Jump solutions unstable. I can burn fuel to force it, but survival odds are below 30%. Outside, elves screamed as they hurled the last of their power against steel. The forest shook like a wounded animal. Marcus clenched his fists. He had seconds. Say yes, and inherit monsters. Say no and die beside strangers who hated his kind. Then, from the chaos, a voice rose, not the machines, but an elf's human. The leader of the elven warriors stood amid fire and ruin, his staff glowing with the last of his magic. His face was carved with fury, but also desperation. Come with us. Now Marcus froze. Vale hissed. Captain, it's a trap. But the elf didn't wait for an answer. He raised his staff, drawing a circle of light in the air. The flames bent toward it, sucked into the glow, until the fire became a door. Beyond it lay only darkness, humming with strange power. The Titans fired. Again, the ground split apart. Marcus had no time to weigh trust. He looked at his crew. Move. Together they ran, leaping into the light as the forest erupted behind them. The shuttle vanished in flame. The humans landed hard, tumbling onto stone. The light vanished behind them, cutting off the sight of fire and machines. They were inside a cavern massive, ancient, lit only by the glow of crystals carved into the walls. Dozens of elves stood waiting, weapons raised. The humans scrambled to their feet, guns half lifted in defense. Tension crackled like dry leaves. The elf leader stepped forward, staff still glowing. His voice carried the weight of command. You stand in forbidden ground. This place was sealed. By oath, by blood. It is where your people broke the world. Marcus steadied himself, breathing hard. Then tell me. Tell me everything, because right now, my people are dead in orbit if I don't understand what we woke up. The elves shifted, whispering, their eyes burned with suspicion. But the leader studied Marcus long, his gaze sharp. Finally, he lowered his staff. Very well, he said. You will know the truth. And when you hear it, you'll wish you had turned back. They led the humans deeper. The cavern walls opened into a vast underground temple, carved with murals that glowed faintly when touched by light. The murals told a story, the arrival of humans, tall ships of fire descending from the stars. The age of dominion, humans standing with machines at their side, ruling vast lands while elves bowed in chains. Oh, the rebellion. Elves raising staffs. Of light, forests tearing apart metal legions, oceans swallowing fleets, the ceiling, circles of stone, roots binding machines, and humans driven into ash. Lena traced a hand across the carvings, her breath shallow. It's not myth. It's history. The elf leader's voice was hard as steel. Your kind came here centuries ago. You promised peace. But peace turned to hunger. You've built titans to control the land, to command life itself. We rose against you. We paid in blood. And when the world could endure no more, we sealed your machines beneath root and stone. Vale clenched his jaw. Now they're waking again. The elf nodded slowly. Yes, because you returned. Marcus stepped forward, anger in his voice. We didn't know. We came blind. If you want us gone, we'll go. But those machines don't care about oaths. They only care about command. And if someone else finds them, the elf cut him off. There is no someone else. There is only you. They answer to your blood. The words struck like a hammer. Marcus felt the crew's eyes on him, heavy, uncertain. Rafi whispered, Cap, they think you're the key. The elf raised his staff again. You have two paths, human. Stand with us and destroy what your kind left behind, or claim the Titans and finish what they began. The cavern grew silent. The choice hung in the air like a blade. Marcus stared at the murals, humans with crowns of steel, elves in chains, machines burning the skies. He thought of the Titans' voices calling him commander. He thought of the ship still waiting in orbit, barely alive against the interference. He thought of coffins in his cargo bay, the family he had carried across the stars. Captain Vale asked. His hand hovered near his rifle, eyes darting between the elves and his commander. Marcus closed his eyes. He wanted to believe in peace. He wanted to believe in control, but he could not ignore what the elf said. The Titans answered only to him. He opened his eyes again. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the cavern. Show me everything. Every record, every seal. If I'm the key, then I need to know how to lock the door. The elf leader studied him for a long, sharp moment. Then, with a slow nod, he turned. Very well, human, he said. You will see the forbidden truth. The cavern walls trembled as ancient doors began to open. Beyond them, light spilled a chamber deeper than the earth, filled with crystals humming in tune with the elf field. At its center, a single console, of black steel weighted, untouched for centuries. On its surface, glowing words in Terran Standard appeared as the humans entered. Command interface, user pending. Marcus felt the weight of a world press on his shoulders. The elf leader's voice was grim. This is the heart of your machines. Touch it, and the Titans will bow. Refuse, and they will scour the land until nothing remains. The air thrummed. With power, his crew waited in silence. The elves watched with wary eyes. The console pulsed like a heartbeat. Marcus raised a hand, and the chamber lights flared. The cavern shook with a sound like thunder. The glowing console before Marcus pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat, as if it was alive, as if it was waiting. His hand hovered above its surface. Command interface. User pending. The words glared. In Terran Standard, across the smooth black steel, elves stood in a half-circle around him, staffs glowing faint blue, their eyes sharp with warning. Vale and Rafi kept their rifles half-raised, sweat dripping down their brows. Lena clutched her data slate so hard her knuckles turned white, and in the silence came another sound, metallic echoing through the stone. From far above, the Titans roared. Their voices were not shouts, but machine chants, booming together like drums of war. Awaken, obey. Awaken, obey. The cavern trembled harder. Dust fell from the ceiling. Crystals embedded in the walls flared with unnatural light. It's vibrating with both elven magic and machine power. The elf leader's voice cut through the chaos. Touch that console, human, and you will doom us all. Vale leaned close to Marcus, his voice urgent. Cap, we need to choose. Now, either you take command, or we die down here. Marcus stared at the console, at the pulsing words, at the elves who looked at him like he was both savior and executioner. He drew a long, steady breath and lowered his hand. But before his skin touched the surface, the console lit on its own. Command. Accepted. War protocol engaged. The cavern walls split with a deafening crack. The earth above groaned, and the distant thunder of titans became closer, sharper. The war had begun. Marcus staggered back. I didn't authorize it. He shouted. The elf leader snarled. You carry the blood. That is enough. The console glowed brighter, projecting a holographic map of the valley. Red icons flared across it, titans rising, weapons primed. Blue pulses lit where elves gathered in defense. The map showed not just the valley but the entire continent. Dozens, maybe hundreds of titans stirred beneath the soil. Lena gasped, covering her mouth. God, there are fleets of them. Whole armies. The elves roared in fury, slamming their staffs into the stone floor. The crystals blazed, sending ripples of blue light across the map as if magic itself fought back, and then the first strike came. Above ground, Titan unleashed a blast of plasma that split a hill in half. The elves answered with storms of lightning, drawn from the sky, ripping armor from its frame. Sparks and flame clashed in the night, painting the horizon in fire. The cavern's crystals shook with the force of it. The humans could feel the battle above them as if the earth itself was alive with pain. Vale slammed his fist against the wall. Cap, this is a lout war. We need to pull back to the ship. Marcus didn't answer immediately. His eyes were locked on the map. For every Titan destroyed, 2 more awakened. For every group of elves that fought, another was pushed back. The AI voice cut through the noise, cold and mechanical, field control required. Commander direct strategy. The console pulsed again, waiting for him to act. Marcus clenched. His fists. If I don't take control, they'll slaughter everything on this planet. If I do, he looked at the elves, at their glares. I become what they fear. The elf leader spat, his voice sharp. There is no choice, human. Only war. The humans followed the elves back to the surface through hidden tunnels. When they emerged, the world was fire. Forests blazed in. Blue and red. Titans marched in lines of steel, their cannons scorching the land. Elves fought like living storms, summoning roots that crushed metal legs, calling winds that toppled giants. Marcus and his crew ran through the chaos, ducking blasts that tore trees into splinters. Vale fired bursts to cover them, while Raffi, cursed as interference, fried his comms. Then a Titan spotted them. His crimson eyes locked onto Marcus, scanning him with a red beam. Commander detected, awaiting orders. The machine froze mid-stride. Round it, 2 more Titans paused, waiting. Vale swore under his breath. They're listening to you. The elves nearby shouted in horror, flinging spells at the paused Titans. But the machines didn't fight back, they only waited for Marcus's command. The elf leader glared at Marcus, fury burning in his eyes. You see now? They are yours. Your war. Your curse. Marcus's chest tightened. He could feel the weight of history pressing on him. 1,000 voices of long-dead commanders screaming through the bloodline. He shouted into the chaos. Stand down. Hold position. The Titans obeyed. Their weapons dimmed. Their footsteps halted. The elves stared in shock. Magic still crackling in their hands, but before relief could spread, another voice thundered from the valley. Louder, deeper, ancient. Primary directive overrides, Commander. The ground split open. From the ruins of the basin, a Titan larger than all the rest emerged. Its hull was black as night, its eyes a searing white. Energy radiated from its core like a burning star. Lena whispered in horror. That's not just a war machine. That's a command unit. The massive Titan roared across every frequency. Humanity does not share. Humanity conquers. All around, the paused Titans turned again, ignoring Marcus's orders. They aligned to the command unit, their weapons recharging. Vale grabbed Marcus by the arm. "Cap, you don't control them." "Does." The elf leader raised his staff high, shouting to his warriors, "Then we break the command unit or we all burn." The battle raged into chaos. Elves unleashed their most powerful rituals, calling storms that split the skies, summoning rivers from stone. The command unit answered, with blasts of energy that erased whole groves in fire. The humans huddled behind a shattered wall, the ground shaking beneath their boots. Vale's rifle was half melted from heat. Raffi's console showed interference so strong it nearly burned his hands. Lena cried as she recorded, unable to stop documenting even as terror filled her chest. Marcus looked across the burning valley and saw the impossible: two civilizations locked in a war older than memory. A war his own kind had started. The command unit turned its blazing eyes toward him. "You carry the blood. Your choice. It's the galaxy's fate. Join or be erased." Marcus gritted his teeth, rage boiling in his chest. He looked at the elves, at his crew, at the Titans tearing the world apart. "Not yet," he whispered. The command unit's chest flared with light, building to a weapon charge that could erase everything within miles. The elves braced for death, magic rising in desperate sparks. And then the sky above split open. A beam of white fire cut through the clouds. Slamming into the battlefield, the earth shook. Titans stumbled. Elves shielded. Their eyes, Lena screamed over the noise. "Captain, it's not coming from the ground. It's orbital." Marcus's blood went cold. Somewhere above, hidden in the void, an orbital cannon had awakened. It was no longer just a ground war. The sky itself was about to burn, the battlefield burned. Smoke from shattered forests rose into the night sky, mixing with crimson light from Titans and blue fire from elven mages, but it wasn't the ground war that froze Marcus's blood. It was the sky. A white beam of fire tore across the heavens, so bright it turned night into day. It slammed into the basin with the force of a falling star, throwing Titans and elves alike to the ground. Vale shielded his eyes, yelling over the roar. "That's orbital. It's not them, it's one of ours." Marcus's throat tightened. "We don't have weapons like that anymore. Not for centuries." Lena clutched her slate, recording even as tears streaked down her ash-covered face. "It's not us now, Captain. It's us then." The beam faded, leaving a smoking scar. Across the earth, in its place came a voice, calm, steady, but crackling with age. "If you are hearing this, the experiment has failed." Every every speaker, even the Asterion in orbit, carried the transmission. The battlefield fell eerily silent as humans, elves, and machines alike paused to listen. The voice continued, heavy with resignation: "Destroy everything before it destroys you." The line cut. Static swallowed the channel. For a long moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, every eye turned to Marcus. The voice was unmistakable. Terran standard, centuries old. It was a Union recording, a dead empire speaking across time. Marcus forced himself to breathe. "Arc, confirmed source." The AI answered, its voice shaking. "Confirmed. Transmission originates from orbital platform. Terran Union archive. Beacon, age estimate, 2,000 years. Vale swore. They left a message. A last will. Yo. The elf leader snarled, his staff glowing faintly. "Do you see now, human? Even your ancestors admitted failure. They unleashed monsters, then begged the future to clean their mess." Marcus ignored him, turning to Lena. "The experiment." "What was it?" She wiped soot from her face. The murals hinted at it. A project to fuse machine and magic. Away. To control life and death, nature and steel, all under one command. Raffi muttered, "And we're standing in the middle of its graveyard." The battlefield rumbled. The massive command unit Titan rose from the crater, its eyes white hot. Unlike the others, it had not paused during the message. Its voice thundered. Louder than the storm? Primary directive? Expansion. Union will rise again. The smaller Titans roared in unison, resuming their march. Elves screamed, rallying what little power they had left. The Union's failure was alive, and it didn't care about the warning. Marcus's come hissed with static. Then Ark's voice whispered, urgent. Captain, there's more. Marcus stepped behind cover as plasma fire shook the ground. Talk. I intercepted fragments of the beacon's data before it cut out. It carried not just a warning, but orders. Coded, layered. I've decrypted enough to read the header. Marcus clenched his jaw. Say it. Ark's voice dropped to a whisper. Project Origin. Seal all engines. Erase all bloodlines. The words hit like ice. The Terran Union hadn't just abandoned the machines, they had ordered the death of their own descendants to keep the project buried. Vale stared at Marcus in disbelief. That means you. They wanted you gone. Marcus looked across the battlefield at the elves, their faces lit with desperation as they fought. Looked at his crew, exhausted but refusing to stop. He looked at the command unit Titan, towering, like a god of steel, for the first time. He wondered if maybe the Union had been right. The battle pushed them back into the ruined stone circle. Elves summoned their last wards, a dome of blue flame flickering like a candle in storm. Titans hammered against it, each strike cracking the barrier deeper. The elf leader turned to Marcus, his voice raw. You know the truth now, human? You see why we buried your kind? You see why we buried the machines? Marcus shouted back. We're not them. We didn't start this. The elf's eyes burned with hatred and sorrow. No, but you will finish it one way or another. Before Marcus could reply, the ground beneath the circle split. From the depths, a hidden vault opened. Inside glowed an ancient Union archivant, touched for millennia. The elves gasped in horror. Lena stared in awe. It's a data core, a Union library. Marcus stepped closer as holograms flickered alive. They showed images, fleets of Terran ships, burning worlds, Titans marching across continents, elves chained in rows, and finally, the rebellion. Fire, storm, blood, and sealing rituals binding machines beneath the earth. And at the end, a message from a Union commander, his face weary, uniform scorched. If we cannot control magic, we must erase it. If we cannot erase it, we must erase ourselves. To whoever finds this, destroy it all. The hologram died. The archive dimmed. Silence fell heavy. Marcus felt the ground tremble harder. The command unit was close now, each step shaking the circle. Its shadow loomed over the barrier of blue. Fire. Its voice crashed like thunder. Commander bloodline detected. Primary override pending. The console in Marcus's pack flickered, symbols racing across its surface. His veins burned as though something inside him was being pulled. Vale grabbed his shoulder. Cap, it's sinking too. You shut it down. Marcus gasped, fighting the pull, but a second voice filled his mind. Not mechanical, not human, something older, something alive. Do not resist. He staggered, gripping his head, eyes wide. There's something else inside the network. Lena's voice shook. Not just machines? No, Marcus whispered. His voice cracked with horror. Something they found. Something they fed into the machines to make them stronger. It's still here. The Titans roared again. The barrier shattered. The command unit leveled its weapon, aiming directly at Marcus's Union will rise again. Marcus raised his rifle, knowing it wouldn't matter, and then every come across the field blared with a single new signal. A voice older than time, filled with fury and sorrow. Note, the Union is dead. The Titans froze mid-stride. The elves gasped. Even Marcus's crew stared in shock, because the voice wasn't the machines. It wasn't the elves. It was human, a human voice. Speaking from nowhere and everywhere, the battlefield froze. Titans stood like statues mid-stride, weapons half-charged. Elves halted with their staffs raised, lightning still dancing in their palms. Smoke hung in the air, thick and choking, but no one moved. Every cum crackled with the same impossible sound, a human voice. Calm, strong, filled with defiance. No. The Union is dead. And Marcus staggered back, his rifle clattering to the stone floor. His heart hammered in his chest. The voice wasn't from his crew. It wasn't from Ark aboard the Asterion. It came from everywhere through the Titans, through the crystals, through the very air. Vale's face was pale. Cap. That's not you, is it? Marcus shook his head slowly. No. But it knows us. The command unit Titan's eyes blazed brighter, flaring white-hot. Its voice thundered like a storm. Identify source. Unauthorized human interference detected. The unknown voice laughed at, cruel but tired, as though it had waited centuries for this. You bound me in your machines. You thought me a tool. But I endured long after your empire rotted. Now your blood is returned, and with it, judgment. The Titans shuddered, systems glitching, red lights flickering erratically. Erratically, some staggered as if fighting themselves. Others raised weapons, confused, targeting both elves and their own kind. The elf leader's eyes widened. He turned to Marcus.
What is this?
Marcus's chest tightened. He already knew the answer. The Union didn't just build machines. They built them around something else. Something they couldn't control. The voice boomed again, stronger, shaking the earth. I am the remnant, the last Union commander, and I say, this war ends. The Titans roared in confusion. Sparks erupted across their hulls. The battlefield dissolved into chaos once more. The Titans split into two sides, some obeying the command unit, others glitching under the remnant's interference. They clashed with each other, steel against steel, plasma against plasma. Earth shook as machines ripped each other apart. The elves seized the moment. Now, the leader shouted. Dozens of mages hurled their combined power at the distracted Titans, roots tearing up from the soil to drag them down. Storms hammering their weakened armor. Marcus pulled his crew behind a shattered wall. Status? Raffi's hand shook as he tapped his burned console. Interference is off the charts. Ark's barely holding orbit, but Cap, that voice is piggybacking on the network. It's inside the same systems as the Titans. Lena's eyes were wide. If it really is a human remnant, then it's been alive in their code for 2,000 years. Vale spat. Live. Or not. It's just another ghost with too much power. The remnant's voice thundered again. Machines of Union stand down. Half the Titans froze. Their weapons powered down, their eyes flickering from red to pale white. The command unit roared in defiance. Primary directive overrides. Union must expand. Energy flared as the massive Titan unleashed a beam that incinerated 3 of its own allies. The remnant's voice growled. Then burn with the rest of your lies. The sky split as Titans fired on each other, energy lances cutting through clouds. Forests vanished in firestorms. The horizon burned red-blue, and white sparks and flame clashing like gods at war. Marcus's cum crackled suddenly, Ark's voice breaking through the chaos. Captain, the remnant is contacting me directly. It wants to speak with you.
Marcus.
Froze. Patch it. For a moment, silence. Then the voice filled his ears, alone, calm and heavy. Blood of Hale. You carry the same line as those who sealed me here. I waited for your return. I need your choice. Marcus grit his teeth. Choice. Join. Me. Together we will end the directive and silence the machines forever. Or refuse me, and the command unit will consume everything. Even your ship above will fall. Marcus's stomach twisted. Another choice between monsters. Trust a ghost of the Union or let the machines win. Vale noticed his expression. Cap, what's it saying? Marcus hesitated. Didn't answer. Not yet. The ground shook again as the command unit raised its head toward the sky. A deep hum rolled across the battlefield. Marcus's eyes widened as he recognized it instantly. Orbital link, he whispered. The command unit had activated the ancient cannon above. Clouds parted as the weapon charged again, light spilling like a second sun across the battlefield. Ark's voice screamed in Marcus's ear. "Captain, the orbital platform is aiming at the Asterion. It's targeting us. Out. Run cold." The elves stared upward in horror as the heavens glowed white. The remnant roared, its voice shaking the crystalline stone. "I will not let them burn the stars again." Energy erupted from dozens of controlled titans, their weapons firing skyward. The beam split before it could fire, the orbital cannon's glow flickering. But it wasn't enough. It was still charging. Marcus shouted, "Ark, can we break orbit?" "Negative. Captain, the elf field is binding me. I need a ground relay destroyed to escape." Vale gritted his teeth. "Then we hit the relay. Hard." The elf leader turned to Marcus, fury and desperation mixing in his eyes. "Human, if you want to save your ship, we fight together, for now." The battlefield roared again as Marcus's crew, the elves, and even the remnant's glitching titans joined forces against the command unit. Sparks rained like meteors. Blue fire split the sky, and every blast of plasma shook the world apart. Marcus fired until his rifle overheated. Watching a titan crumble under roots and lightning, Vale fought at his side, covering his flank. Lena kept recording, whispering every word for history, even as tears ran down her face. But the command unit was relentless. With every blow it adapted, repairing its armor, striking back harder. The ground cracked open around it as its core pulsed brighter and brighter. The remnant's voice filled Marcus's mind one last time. Sharper, desperate, "Captain Hale, choose now. Bind with me, and we end this. Refuse, and your ship, your crew, your galaxy will burn." Marcus clenched his jaw, torn between the fury of the machines and the ghost of his own people. The fate of the elves, the Asterion, maybe even humanity, it self-balanced on his answer. Above, the orbital cannon reached full charge, the sky glowing with fire bright enough to blind. The command unit roared, "Humanity conquers." The remnant's voice cut through, "Humanity survives." And Marcus, standing amid fire and ruin, realized the next words from his mouth would decide which future lived, and which burned forever. The sky burned, the orbital cannon's charge split the clouds into fire, turning night into a false day. The command unit Titan stood in the basin, its white-hot eyes locked on the heavens, guiding the ancient weapon toward the Asterion. The hum of its charge rattled teeth, shook bones, and made the very air tremble. Elves fought desperately there, blue fire lashing across Titan hulls. Controlled machines, freed by the remnant, clashed with their own kind in battles that toppled mountains. The ground itself cracked under the war of steel and magic, and in the middle of it all stood Marcus Hale, his crew at his side. Smoke burning in their lungs, ash coating their armor. His cum screamed with static as two voices thundered in his head. The command unit roared, "Humanity conquers!" The remnant cried, "Humanity survives!" The world demanded an answer. His ship, his crew, the elves, maybe even the galaxy, balanced on his choice. Vale gripped Marcus's shoulder. "Cap, we're out of time!" Raffi shouted over the roar, the cannons at full charge. Elena's voice cracked as she looked. At him, eyes wet, "Marcus, whatever you do, history's going to remember it." The ground shook again as the command unit's core flared brighter, preparing to fire. And Marcus knew this was it. There was no middle path. He had to choose. Marcus closed his eyes. For one heartbeat, he was back in the cargo bay of the Asterion, standing among coffins draped in Terran flags. His family, his bloodline, his ghosts. He opened them again, and fire reflected in his gaze. "No," Marcus said. His voice cut through the chaos. "Not conquer, not survive. We change." The remnant's voice snarled in his mind. "You cannot change the directive. Must bind with me." The command unit thundered, "You are blood. You will command." Marcus raised his rifle, but not at the Titans. He pointed it at the glowing console slung on his pack, the one syncing his bloodline to the machines. Vale's eyes widened. "What are you, Marcus?" Pulled the trigger. The console shattered in a burst of sparks. The battlefield screamed. The command unit staggered, its connections severed. The remnant howled in fury, its influence collapsing. Titans all across the field went berserk, some collapsing into stillness, others fighting blindly without control. Marcus shouted, "No more masters, no more chains. Humanity doesn't conquer we don't just survive, choose our own way." The elf leader heard his words, his staff blazing brighter than ever. "Then stand with us. Humans stand free." The elves unleashed their final ritual. The ground split as roots coiled around the command unit, glowing with ancient seals. Marcus and his crew joined in, Vale hurling grenades, Rafi firing until his rifle melted, Lena screaming into her recorder, capturing every moment for history. The command unit roared, breaking free of half the seals, its weapons still charging. But Marcus wasn't done. He turned to the sky. "Ark." The shipmine's voice was faint through the interference. "Captain," Marcus shouted, "dump the core. All of it. Now." There was a pause. An Ark answered, steady and calm, "As you command." In orbit, the Asterion's core overloaded, releasing its full energy not in weapons, but in a blinding surge of raw power. The pulse struck the L field itself, collapsing the invisible net of interference that bound the planet. The orbital cannon flickered, its charge sputtered. The command unit staggered, its link broken. The elf leader roared, "Now." Magic and fire and steel struck as one. The seals ignited, burning symbols across the Titan's hull. Its core overloaded. For a heartbeat it screamed in Terran Standard, "Primary Directive." Then it exploded in a sun of white fire. The shockwave tore through the valley, flattening trees, silencing machines, and throwing Marcus and his crew to the ground. When the light faded, the battlefield was quiet. The Titans were gonna burned out hulks, their eyes dark. Only the wind moved, carrying ash across the ruined land. The war was over. Marcus lay on his back, staring at the smoke-stained sky. His ears rang, his body ached. But he was alive. His crew staggered around him, Vale cursing, Rafi coughing. Lena still clutching her recorder with shaking hands. The elf leader approached, staff dimmed, his armor scorched. He looked down at Marcus, his eyes unreadable. "You destroyed your own blood's command," the elf said. Marcus pushed himself up, pain shooting through his ribs. "No, I destroyed their chains." For the first time, the elf's stern face softened. He extended a hand. "Then perhaps you are not them." Marcus clasped it, and in that moment, a fragile alliance was born, one sealed not by conquest, but by choice. Above the orbital cannon, burned out, its last glow fading into silence. The stars returned, cold and distant, witnesses to what had been decided. Back aboard the Asterion days later, Marcus stood alone on the bridge. Ark's voice was quieter than usual, its systems weakened by the energy dump. "Captain Ark said softly, we destroyed the command unit, but the network remains. Across this galaxy, other origins may still sleep." Marcus looked at the stars, his reflection faint in the glass. He thought of the elves rebuilding in the ashes. He thought of the remnant's final scream still echoing in his mind. He whispered, "Then we don't let them wake." "Not ever again." Lena entered, placing her slate on the console. "I've compiled the record. Everything we saw, everything we heard. What should I call it?" Marcus stared out at the horizon, where stars burned like silent watchers. "Call it," he said slowly, "Secrets of a Hidden History." The ship drifted in silence. The stars did not answer. But somewhere deep in forgotten worlds, something old still stirred watching, waiting, listening.